am I cut out for relationships? So what I've done is I've pulled up some charts of people. I won't reveal who they are. They may well be famous. They may well not be. But these are charts of people who are kind of like confirmed bachelors or bachelorettes. And one of the charts in particular is the chart of the person that asked this question. So what I wanted to do was explore some of the things that come up in charts where people decide that actually they really don't want to commit, or that they're very, very happy living on their own. They don't have any problems at all, with being on their own. In fact, they don't really feel alone on their own. They feel very much enough. And so I just wanted to share some of those aspects, and start the conversation, I guess. The first thing I would really say is, with all these charts that I share, there'll be hundreds of people or thousands of people born at the same time. They might have a slightly different ascendant. They might have a slightly different moon, but there'll be people born with really similar charts all around the world who do choose to be in relationships. And so just if you see these patterns and, I'm suggesting that they might show up in the charts of people who choose that they don't want to commit, doesn't mean to say that they won't commit, they won't ever commit, or that if you see that aspect in yourself, that somehow you're wrong to be committed. It's not definitive. I really want to stress that. It's just, and the next thing I guess I would say is that it's really silly just to focus on one thing. Like when I was about 12 or 13 and bought an astrology book, it was all about moon signs, and there was this piece about the moon in Pisces, and it said how awful they were, how oversensitive they were, how they were probably alcoholics, they would have boundary issues, they would have and it was really kind of demonizing people with moon in Pisces, and I was so sensitive to it. And for a really long time, I really felt like that was my reality. And of course, boundary issues, there's me picking up a book and believing everything that it said. So, I would really encourage you to use as much caution and decide if something resonates with you. Funnily enough, the moon in Pisces, there were some themes that definitely came up, but whoever wrote that book definitely had it in for people with moon in Pisces in a major way. And similarly, there are lots of astrologers out there that say, or in the past have said, that if you've got the sun in Aquarius, or Aquarius in your 7th house, that you won't be very suitable for relationships, and this, that, and the other. And that's absolute bunkum. I would also urge you not to take it too seriously, when you're told from series of books, that water signs all get on very well, fire signs all get on very well, etc., and that your true twin flame is the same element as you. I do see it happen in some relationships, but more often than not, I don't see it happen. I think the most important thing when you're looking at somebody's chart is to get really clear as to what their motives or reasons for being in love are versus not being in love. So for instance, whilst I'm a fire sign, I've never dated a fellow fire sign, not because I don't get on with them. In fact, have a great time with them, but actually in a relationship, I don't want my life to be a massive adventure all the time. In my life, when I look at the rest of my chart and my moon in Pisces, I actually want a bit of a quiet, more soulful reflection. And, my sun sign bringing in another fire sign, I've found that that's more compatible for me in terms of my friendships. So here's what I want to do is just explore the following few charts and show what aspects I think are showing individualism and a sense of being enough, and also having an aversion to relationships or not needing them. Just explore those, because there are signs. Now, one of the signs, it's interesting. I did a show very recently about a beautiful grief coach that I work with. As she's one of my clients, and she's just written a book all about grief. I mean, she works with people who've gone through the grieving process. And I was looking at her chart and talking about some of the aspects that show up in her chart and really describe the job that she does. And one of them, funnily enough, is this aspect here, this Chiron, which is the symbol that looks like a key turned on its side, in a conjunction with Jupiter in a water sign. Now, Heidi, and you can look at that if you choose to. It's in the videos. It was uploaded this week. She's got her Chiron and Jupiter conjunction in the sign of Pisces, and another water sign. But this is a sign of grief, or an understanding of grief, like, and also religion and spirituality. You know, Chiron is very much about mastering our emotions, or them mastering us. You know, there's a very sort of emotional aspect here, you know, with Chiron, especially in the sign of Cancer. This person, you know, in terms of any trauma that they may have come across, you know, they've got Jupiter emphasizing it. So any wounding from childhood, in particular, possibly with the mum, given that it's in the sign of Cancer, but also that Ceres, which is the divine mum, is so close nearby as well, and also with the moon right on the ascendant. To me, that's saying, oh, there's a bit of wounding there. There's a little bit of sensitivity there. Interestingly, they've got that in the 11th house. The 11th house is all about friendships as well. So as I look here, I can also see that Uranus in a conjunction with Neptune is an interesting one, because Uranus is, you know, that aspect of us that wants to stay free. In a conjunction with Neptune, Neptune is a side of us that doesn't want to necessarily be pinned down, and it also wants to be very creative. So this is somebody who's got, and this is very much in the charts of millennials, in particular some of the earlier millennials. But this person has got a real sort of program of wanting independence. Like the sign of Capricorn is quite stoic, and tries to be as unemotional as possible. With Neptune here, their creativity is more on a business-like manner. You know, they'll be quite insightful in terms of creating systems, and they want the freedom to think things through that way. And it's in this tight opposition. So one thing you might find in charts of people that really favor being on their own is where you get these very, very tight oppositions, in particular with some of these harder planets to work out, for instance, Uranus and Neptune and Chiron to start with. And, you know, Jupiter inflames things quite a bit. So this is quite troubling. Now, if they can get some help with this, you may well find that they are able to work through it and would like a relationship of some sort. Now, this person has also got these are very supportive aspects, showing that they do get a lot of support, and quite empowering support, I would say, from education. And they are able to talk about the conditions that they feel. So I think this person is able to articulate what's going on for them. And I do happen to know that they are somebody who still prefers to be very, very independent. I'm just going to move on to another chart now, because I just want to, you know, have a sort of explore of quite a few different themes. Now, this one, Uranus, this planet of independence, and a need to be original, a need to be able to do things their own way. I always think of the song You Can Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac. You know, this is somebody who absolutely feels really much more comfortable in their own skin when they don't have people sort of like clamoring over them and putting their expectations on them. This person has got Uranus right in the first degree of Sagittarius, so it's just changed signs. You know, it was in the sign of Scorpio, you know, where people were really learning about shocks through their relationships. And now this person is like, you know, I'm part of a new generation, and yes, I need that sense of freedom. I really need that sense of space. It's interesting, you know, the people with Uranus in the sign of Sagittarius, that's really a generation of people that have almost been freed from seeing relationships in more of a traditional way. But this person with Uranus right on their ascendant really has pretty much lived all their life free of any relationships, and they've got a very sort of cleverly crafted career that allows them to move around a lot. You know, personal freedom is super important. But this person still does want a relationship, and I absolutely wouldn't sign it off. You know, they've got Venus right on the descendant, which is an indication of really finding a partner and always being able to find people to have fun with and to share life with. They've also got Chiron. This person's really looking for a healing relationship and one where they feel absolutely looked after and loved, almost like a friendship love, you know, given that the sign of Venus is in the sign of Gemini. This is somebody that needs to feel like a brother or sister, and it will be romantic and sexual and stuff, but it has to be based on friendship. So this is somebody who's got a high level of independence and a high need for a companion. And then, you know, these really supportive energies to the moon, I love. But, you know, so this is another sort of example of one of these outer planets over an angle. I think they can be quite problematic. And Chiron on the descendant can sometimes stop people from wanting to connect or make them a lot more choosy. I mean, that's another thing, you know, like in the charts of people that are more unreasonable, you know, and more demanding or more individualized, you're less likely to find somebody that settles, you know. And in charts of people that are kind of people pleasing and a lot more conciliatory, I think you're more likely to find a higher instance of people settling because it's what they do. So here's another chart. And this is a chart where there's a high level of need for emotional expression. And if you can just see down here, you've got the moon and Uranus in a tight conjunction. Now, this is an interesting one because I have seen the moon and Uranus in people's charts that do come into relationships. And yet there's always, not always, I don't want to be fatalistic, but that people often find themselves in relationships that really transform them. And of course, those kind of relationships might only come around, you know, like in the 20s and then maybe in the 60s, or, you know, they might come suddenly in the 30s. And so, you know, with the moon in a conjunction with Uranus, there is this feeling of emotional change, like there's a craving for emotional change. It doesn't like to get too settled. And when things do get settled, there is this almost like an instinct for things to just get thrown in the air a little bit, for things to get a bit exciting, a bit spontaneous. So I would say people with this kind of aspect, the moon in a conjunction with Uranus, and see it's right on one of the angles as well. I think the best way for them to find stability in their relationships is to live in a way that has a lot of spontaneity, because then the spontaneous reactive nature seen in the chart is experienced through life and not through the relationship. The relationship can be the stable thing. So that's quite interesting. I also noticed this person's also got Venus and Mars together. And I've noticed Venus and Mars conjunctions. I've noticed two things. They're either really, really tightly into relationships. It's like the boy and girl principle, you know, so they're really tight with their partner and they get a partner that is almost like the boy version of them, or vice versa. Or the other thing that I've noticed with this very strong conjunction between Venus and Mars is that the person embodies both the male and the female. So they don't tend to be very gendered. You know, they tend to be a really great steamy mix of the two, because obviously you've got Venus, which is all about beauty and love. And then you've got Mars, which is all about eroticism and horniness and vitality, and it's very thrusting. So, you know, I've noticed in many of these charts, in particular where Venus and Mars are together in a fire sign, you get a lot of the desire to use your body. But when I've seen Venus and Mars in a conjunction, say in the sign of Aquarius, that's less thrusting, I've seen it more expressed as people coming together and embodying both genders within them, you know, like not feeling that they need a man to complete them or a woman to complete them, because they're already doing that within themselves. I will continue with this theme another time.